FM, streaming on GuardianTalkRadio.com and the Guardian Radio app, Nassau, Bahamas. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the management and staff of Guardian Radio.
Good morning to you. The birds are chirping.
Hey, no.
Good morning to you. The birds are chirping.
You could try and take us, but with the gladiators, everyone will rage you, but secretly the savior. Glory and gore go hand in hand. That's why we're making headlines.
The Eye Opener.
And I'ma get it, I know what I'm doing. Patience and the time, I know what I'm doing, baby. Staring at it, I know what I'm doing. Staring at a gladiator, talking about a revolution. No, this is not a game.
And good morning, and welcome to the Eye Opener, your weekly dose of something different. What's today's date? Today is what, the 7 of the 10th of the May, and it can't be the 17th. I'm getting old. Yeah. It is indeed the 7 of the 10th of May. I'm your host, John. Joining me in studio is Crystal. I don't know if Tate is hopped on our Zoom just yet. But Crystal, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
You don't sound convincing remotely at all. It's a beautiful Saturday today. I'm sure many of you have made it out to the various farmers markets that are probably taking place today. I think we went out this morning, the farmers market on Gladstone Road. If you want to go down and check that out, get your fresh produce, supposedly organic.
Support local.
Yes. And I think the thing that kept burning on my mind for the past couple of weeks is what's up with these eggs. Well, that's a whole other conversation altogether. But no, it's a beautiful Saturday. I don't know if it's official that we've entered summer mama yet, but it feeling summery already, and it hot. I'm not a big fan of it. Summer is my most disliked season of the year, Crystal, because sweat and mosquitoes and sandfly if you go on the beach and Dr. Fly, and I'm not a big fan of it. At all, and obviously the most dreaded, hopefully we won't be experiencing this year, considering we signed this landmark deal with a subsidiary of Focal and this Pike Energy Group, basically, where we hopefully will not be outages in New Providence. I hope,
and
for the sake of our family
and
people.
you end up, because it's so hot, you end up spending more money on gas too.
Yes, you do. You burn more. You spend more time in traffic too, because
you burn more using AC. For
yes,
sure.
yes, you do.
Sometimes the heat is just unbearable.
Up to 10 to 15% more fuel consumption by burning electricity. That depends on how old your car is, if you got service or not. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you do burn more fuel by burning AC all day.
So remember to travel with your reusable water bottles. If you don't have one, invest in one.
All right, Kristen, I know. Yeah, a reusable cup too.
Water bottle.
Use a reusable cup.
Yeah.
Get that mason jar or that Prego the Prego jar,
No, man, those mason jars break too easily.
Prego
you
jar.
Walking on the road, you drop that gone. That Prego jar, that
fine.
gone.
The Ragu jar.
Don, no, a water bottle.
The Hellman's Minis.
People just
jar.
give out water bottles. If you go to those fun run walks and stuff, they be giving out water bottles, man. And those summer flings with your MP on the park.
Oh yeah, selection time, eh?
Yeah, they be giving out new water bottles. That's a good idea for summer. So wink, wink, MPs, water bottles are there.
I think you actually can encourage more people to do that, because I thought Bahamians would never get on board with the everybody bring your own bag to the food store thing. Remember we banned plastic bags? I thought plastic bags were going to come back at some point.
No, people. I mean, they have.
I know, but most people
is
get the box at the food store now.
Yeah.
So they ain't gotta throw all the boxes, give it to the people.
Yeah, but that still doesn't solve the problem. The boxes aren't good.
Crystal, we don't solve problems in the moment.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that the whole goal of the plastic ban, the whole goal of that was to kind of break that cycle of what do you call it? it's the consumer mentality where it's like you always I'm using the wrong term here, but it's like you're using and throwing away, using and throwing
Disposable,
away,
yeah, like the throwaway,
that culture,
throwaway culture,
that's
basically.
but if you're using like brown paper bags or if you're using boxes, you're still doing the same
Ron,
thing.
Crystal, with the box come with the things anyway. So when they order all the products,
that is
so
a way to reuse.
we reusing, what it is, reuse, recycle, reduce, yeah.
Recycle, and it's so many more R's now. They have like 5 or 6 R's.
This
now.
getting to be like the LGBTQ plus
the
thing.
Reduce, reuse,
Just
recycle.
keep it simple, man. It's too much
renew.
letters.
I think renew is one. Yeah, it's a whole long list now.
Every time I hear that these things are getting longer, I always think, who's making money off of this? Like, where's the profit incentive? Because somebody is benefiting off of
the
this.
buzzwords are always a part of capitalist culture.
Of
course,
course.
like it helps you to make more money, right? It's
Everything
like,
is about money,
everybody
isn't
likes
it?
the buzzwords, like the synergy. I'm sorry, that is just the funniest. That is the funniest word.
Sustainable is another buzzword.
Yeah,
It is.
somehow
Because
I-
people say, well, we're going to make this sustainable. Or, how are you
Yeah.
going to make it sustainable?
Yeah, but there
we're
are
not paying
certain-
for it.
certain-
You are.
certain corporate buzzwords, but yeah. So it'd be like bandwidth. Let's circle back on that. The synergy in the room. Okay, this one is a little bit of a low hanging fruit. That we're gonna take this offline. Just want to make this touch point.
I hate those words.
We're gonna loop in. We got to disrupt.
Okay, you
the
can stop
market.
now. Is this?
Yeah. Okay,
this
that's what
very-
I'm telling you.
This
like
is
certain-
reminding me of the pandemic.
Yes, this
When
gotta
we
disrupt the
all were on
market.
Zoom and Teams meetings, and you know what? Anyway, that's a whole nother
Customer
rant.
journey.
A lot of the things that you discuss in meetings, whether it be a meeting with a department, meeting with an institution, meeting with the whole company you work for, a lot of those things can just be an email. But anyway, I guess you got to talk to people from time to time. And we're going to jump into the news right quick. This has been a very interesting week. I think we had a very positive end to this week. Of course, those you don't know, we do have a new pope as well. There was white smoke, and the new pope's in Americano. Anyway, I'm going to run through the news right quick. Stay tuned, Abner. In the first piece, apparently we finally put together our collective 18 brain cells and figured out how zoning works in the Bahamas. Apparently there was an announcement this week on social media, well, all across social media, various news platforms, that there had been enforcement on the ban on new liquor licenses for liquor stores within 700 feet of schools, churches, and other liquor establishments. Now, we'll wait and see how that actually turns out, because we've said this before, haven't we? The government has announced they are selling the Grand Lucayan Resort and its surrounding property for $120 million to Ancient Waters Bahamas Limited, which is a subsidiary of the parent company, Concord Wilshire Capital, or CWC. CWC is reportedly has $10 billion in their portfolio and will spearhead a $827 million redevelopment of the beachfront property. It's supposed to provide like 1,300 or so construction jobs and about 1,700 permanent jobs within Grand Bahama. So if this goes through, I'm very, very happy for the people of Grand Bahama. To this administration for making this happen. The Bahamas Aviation, Climate, and Severe Weather Network, or BACSWIN, has signed a memorandum of understanding with NOAA's Office of Oceanic and Atmospheric Research to develop and install advanced aviation forecast systems that will improve flight safety for airlines traversing the Bahamas' airspace. So, I guess good things. I hope the price doesn't go up. Anyway, former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram said the lack of urgency from Bahamian women and the indifference from a lot of our politicians towards the issue of our discriminatory citizenship laws is persisting. He made his comments. He said 3 years after he had expected the Davis administration to change the citizenship laws and criminalize marital rape. Yet here we are 3 years later, and these things still persist. In international news, the Trump administration and China have come to what seems to be an agreement on trade, with both powerful countries agreeing to lower tariffs on the other. Was this steps to resolve their ongoing trade dispute? This should come in good. This should come as good news for a lot of Bahamians, as it means consumer products, whether it be clothing, electronics, etc., will go down slightly in price. There's still going to be a slight rise, but this is good news. Hopefully, this can progress and they can resolve this trade dispute and they can both remove tariffs on each other. And I don't know, that should be less disruptive to trade within the Caribbean and less disruptive to our ability to consume within the Bahamas.
Robbed.
Oh, listen to you. Just say it. But the Grand Lucayan thing, I think, is huge news. It's like the first time ever where I can say, and I'm just making this assumption because this isn't the first time we had a group interested in the Grand Lucayan situation. We also had, I think it was RCI at one point in time. So I'm going to say, fingers crossed. I hope that this is successful. I hope that this means a new boost for people of Grand Bahama. The next hurdle that needs to be climbed over, of several within Grand Bahama, is the airport and Freeport. Needs to be resolved. But good on this administration for making this happen. Like, we give kudos when kudos should be given. I hope we have more and more of these announcements.
Maybe we have more people moving back to Grand Bahama because it's so it's we would like to see Grand Bahama thriving again, right? It would be so,
No, I agree.
so much better for our national economy.
I mean, I like Freeport. I hate Nassau. Like, Nassau is terrible. Nassau is a terribly, horribly designed city.
I can't argue.
And the thing that I like is if someone says, I live on 417 Ocean Drive in Freeport, I could go on Google Maps
And find it.
and find it. But if someone tell me, boy, I live number 37 Nassau Street, where that is?
You know how much number 37?
You got to send me a pin on
how many Nassau
WhatsApp
streets?
for your location so I can find. And the
They
thing
be
is,
like, no, this ain't Nassau Street. This is Nassau Corner.
No, it's
This
true.
ain't Nassau Corner. This is Nassau Village.
even the company that delivers the packages order directly from Amazon to New Providence, like, they just have to call you and be like, "Wait, True and Ray, where your house is, Red?"
Yeah.
And then you'd be like, "Oh yeah, after the third speed bump on the left hand side." Literally, I've had to
You
send
have to drive through the
coordinates.
porthole and then
Yeah,
it's my house.
you have to go inside the portal, take the first right. 14 lamp poles down from there. You can see my house. It's the only house because there's a bush all around it. But it's like,
And the stop sign will be on the ground in front of the yard.
since we've successfully, it seems, figured out how zoning laws are supposed to work, I wish we would enforce this for more than just the liquor store situation. I know there was an attempt within my lifetime to address the situation of home addresses within New Providence, where they put numbers up on everybody's house. That seems to have completely been an abject failure in an
Yeah.
attempt. We need an address system in this country. Like, I don't understand how we made it 50-something years into our development, and I still have to put in coordinates to send somebody to say where I live or where they live or where business
And you
establishment
still
is.
don't know what color your house is.
Yeah. It should just be 417 XZ Road. I could plug in the address and it just pops up somewhere. But we still haven't figured that out in the confines of the Bahamas. But yeah, I don't know if we're ever going to get to that point.
Yeah, hopefully. But we have another great announcement from Guardian Media Group. We're having a cruise giveaway promotion. So Guardian Media Group and Going Places Travel want to take you on a 7-day cruise for 4 to Panama, Colombia, Curacao, and Aruba on Royal Caribbean's Serenade of the Seas. And here's the best part. No visa required. That's right. No visa required. You have 4 ways to enter and 4 ways to win. Fill out the form in the Nassau Guardian. Listen to Star 106.5 and Guardian Radio 96.9. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, or make a purchase at Going Places Travel. The entry deadline is June 27th, 2025, and a drawing is on July 4th, 2025. So pack your bag, soak up the sun, and feel that ocean breeze. You and 3 loved ones sailing the high seas on a vacation cruise of a lifetime. Brought to you by the Guardian Media Group and Going Places Travel. Certain conditions apply, airfare, taxes, and gratuities not included.
Oh, I dropped my phone. You say gratuity not included? That's crazy.
It's not included.
But yeah, I want to talk about the Ground and Kind situation. I was very nervous a while back because I saw we had an announcement and there was no mention of the price of how much we were selling the hotel for. Now, it is my understanding that we had originally purchased that hotel for somewhere around $25 million on a loan as well. Of course, the actual expense of basically holding that hotel has been exponentially more than that. I think we were spending around just over $1 million a month.
Which makes sense. It's huge.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is a big proproperty. I've been there several times.
Then you think about, and then there's like a certain standard that you have to, it's not like an apartment or something, like it's high maintenance, right? Because it's like certain things have to be in check. You have to think about like
Maintenance.
the maintenance of the like air system, right? You don't no mold. You can't have, and when a place is not being like lived in, and there's no one to like open the windows and do, you know what I mean? That like you have to be so careful with not letting the place fall apart, So that maintenance alone is incredible.
Oh, well,
price.
I'm glad we finally offloaded it. That $1 million.
It's a little bit of a relief. I could hear the entire country breathe a sigh of relief when that was sold.
In a way, it feels
We've been waiting so
kind of
long.
like we are reviving a bit of Christie's policy of anchor projects, where you have a major development on every major island that drives employment there, right? And we see that in South Eleuthera now they have Disney, several other developments like Jack's Bay, Cotton Bay Club would used to exist, one degree of investment getting reinvested there. Exuma. Consistently on social media, we see two groups just duking it out over who should get the rights to dredge. Once again. Actually, it's four groups. What am I saying?
It's a lot. But yeah, I thought about that too. I'm just like, how, does it always, do we have any other options? Like, does it always have to be like a hotel or like a resort?
No, it doesn't have to be those things. It's just our economy.
Kind of centered around it, but is there another way or another thing that we can do that can be effective as well,
that brings in as
profitable,
profitable?
Yes,
but it probably requires us to do something that's very crazy for us to do.
Planning, management, investment.
Yes, and also we need to graduate from high school. Our graduation rates are, I think, Vision 2030.
There's always a vision.
The plan for 2030 through the Ministry of Education was to increase the graduation rate substantially, get closer to 80%. The objectives is to lower the standards for graduation again. I cannot see
I feel like we've just been lowering that so much.
I don't think the standards are
so
in the basement, but I do think
they're low, man.
I do think there's some value in changing some of the criteria, like like they had an amendment I think a few years ago on the criteria for graduation. It took out some of the PTA requirements for parents.
Yes,
which I thought were kind of ridiculous. But at the same time, in order for a country to pivot to a different industry, the Bahamas has to do something that fundamentally we've never done in the 52 years. No, you have to improve your education scores. Your mathematics scores need to go up. If you want Bahamians to work at high value,
but you have to create industries that are attractive for Bahamians for qualified Bahamians to stay.
Well,
you know what I mean.
So the two go hand in hand. You can't create it. Like for instance, if the Bahamas were to become a cryptocurrency capital go ahead.
But I think there may be some because we do have like a lot of very technical, like engineering, those type of like very strong mathematical things where we have a lot of Bahamians leaving the country to do. Because I have a lot of friends and family who studied those things and they're not here, But we bring in people to do these jobs. So
yes.
How do we make it attractive for Bahamians?
Pay.
You know what I mean? But they're paying expats and foreigners to do it, though. They're giving them a lot of money to do it.
Chris, you just reaching.
I know, but what I'm saying is that how do we make these things available for Bahamians? How do we get like more Bahamians in these circles who are qualified rather than them just going off? Because it doesn't make sense, right? Because what we're doing is this. It's like a crisscross. It's like we bringing in people to do the job, and Bahamians, we educating Bahamians to go abroad, and they stay in there, and then we still have to pay for people to come in and do the work
So
here.
you're
But the Bahamians
you're on
doing
it.
the work elsewhere.
But you're on it. But the problem is, we don't even have to go that far. You can just look at nursing. We pay considerable amounts of money every single year. We pay a nursing stipend to nursing students.
So
we
nursing
train nurses,
and-
world
and
class.
teachers,
You know, the teachers, sure, but we lose more nurses than we lose teachers.
for sure.
And now we do lose teachers too,
That-
by the
that
way.
it's growing.
Yes,
Teacher
but the
and-
nurses is just like it's a wipeout after a couple of years when these
Yeah.
teachers, nurses enter the system. We also have nurses that never get confirmed. They get
Yeah.
tired of waiting.
And
they
we
get offered
pay
to the
them.
States.
So we pay the nurses to go to school.
Yes.
We give them a stipend.
Yes.
And we
Pay
pay,
for the school
for
fee.
the school fee.
Yes.
That's two different. Now that's two things. Now you're paying them a stipend on top of paying their school fees.
But this
and
is-
then they're not staying. So that's not. And then you remember in the newspaper we just saw last week, the nurses are
From
you know
West
saying
Africa
that
now.
they're bringing in nurses from where
West
it doesn't
Africa.
matter where you bring them in. Yeah, I get it.
Filipinos.
You're bringing in Filipinos, you're bringing West Africans, Cubans, whatever, Dominicans, whoever, all, nurses from all these other places, but the nurses locally because the system is so like
It's bad policy.
it's it's so bad where it's easier to bring in people, and I don't know if if that's the same way for like engineering, architecture, and so forth. It's easier to bring in people to do this work than it is to go crazy knotted system to just the students, the nurses when they graduate to put them in and to pay them and get that is
So-
so insane.
The truth is, it's not
That is
easier.
so
It's actually not
insane.
easier for us to do that.
It sounds like it. Well, I don't want to say it sounds like based on what I
No,
read.
I'm
last
not
week in the
arguing to say that
paper,
you're right or wrong.
It seems
It
that
is.
way.
It
That's-
is sold to us as the
Yeah.
easy solution to this problem.
Yeah.
But it's actually the worst solution we possibly can have.
I know, but I mean, it could
No,
be the easier.
I'm not saying
and
that
the
you're
worse.
wrong. I'm just saying, if you look at it in totality, because the government also portrays this as an easy solution as well. So I'm not saying that you're wrong, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying for the long-term consequence of the country, you are bleeding resources to train people that you cannot keep, and you can't. It's like you have half of this equation correct. Us as a country, we should be training our own nurses.
Yes.
we also should be training our own doctors, which is now going to be started in I think 2027 or 2028. We're going to be training doctors in Grand Bahama. There's a medical
Grand
university.
Bahama.
Up to 1,000 doctors will be able to matriculate per year,
Mm-hmm.
which I hope a good portion of those end up being Bahamian applicants. But the issue, like I said, what I'm getting at is when you bring in foreigners to do this work,
Mm-hmm.
is they don't really have any ties to this country. Some want to stay. We frustrate people through the immigration process on a consistent basis. I've seen it happen at the University of the Bahamas time and time again.
Mm-hmm.
Some really top tier talent, and they just get frustrated and then just get tired and just leave. But you frustrate people in that regard, then we want the people to come here to wake, and you should want them also to come here to stay and be like, "I'm going nowhere, stay right here, keep your money in this country." But then we don't necessarily incentivize that behavior. So what ends up happening is sometimes, and I'm being specific at all, I have very specific examples I could use, people hop skip. Because the same issue that the Bahamas is experiencing is happening across the Caribbean. And some Caribbean territories, namely the Cayman Islands, will pay top dollar for this type of talent. And you factually have had people from West Africa, from the Philippines, come to the Bahamas within the medical profession, work for a handful of years, get tired of the conditions within our hospital, which are deplorable, and they go somewhere else in the Caribbean. It doesn't always happen, but it happens. So we're not actually addressing the core issues that causes people to leave. The pay is trash. The working conditions are bad. The hospital needs investment. We're building a new hospital, but we don't take the time to fix the one that we currently have. We suck at maintenance.
I don't even listen. Don't get me on that new hospital.
Even the government buildings around this country. On the Fami Islands, man, roofs caving in. The some of the bathrooms don't wake in some police
Some of
stations.
them aren't. Some of them don't even have buildings. They rent.
Exactly.
They rent terrible.
Garbage.
Yeah, they rent
from
garbage.
PLP or F&M
People- supporters.
cronies and
Yeah.
supporters or people who own all the things in the settlement. And then
Yeah.
you look, and this is the thing I've noticed across the Fami Islands.
And it's so bad for the people who actually have to deal with it.
A lot of these
'Cause they have
settlements,
to fly to
yes,
Nassau to
for
get
services.
better care. And
they ain't really
PMH
better. They
ain't
ain't better.
okay.
They ain't-
That
they
ain't, you know.
And then we have the
that's all that-
situation now. We had, I believe it was a reporter from ZNS went live on Facebook to discuss the issue that there was a car accident that happened, a head-on collision. A mother and her daughter were involved in a head-on collision. Someone hit them, and she was gushing from the head. This reporter said he stayed on the scene, called the ambulance. the PMA said they ain't got no ambulance.
Oh, goodness.
And so they had to call Doctors Hospital, and then they eventually showed up 45 minutes later. But it's like, remember that thing called the golden hour? And if you ever, right after an accident, a gunshot, some fatal or trauma, where it's like, especially a car accident, the first hour is life and death,
Yes.
literally. And if on average, I don't know the duration of time it takes to get someone to the hospital in the Bahamas, but if it's close to an hour, I really got to question, like, where are our priorities?
You know what it is with the Bahamas? The Bahamas is like caving in on itself.
Yes.
You know, like if you like tap the center of a creme brulee, and it's
Yes.
like that's what's happening right now because we have made everything so Nassau centric, right? You have so many people from all these different family islands coming into Nassau, and now Nassau has like a huge population that it cannot
Sustain.
handle.
Yeah.
Look at the traffic, right? Like it is so. And so when you have issues with ambulances or people who have emergencies, you don't even have the capacity to deal with that because you have too much people on a small island with limited resources.
I want to say,
And it's even worse on the family island.
that,
so I won't even get there because most
Nassau-
of them don't even have ambulances.
contrary to popular belief, Nassau is actually not overpopulated. Nassau, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying Nassau is just really poorly designed.
Yeah.
It is not designed in terms of the street sizes, the way that we've
I think
tackled
it
up
goes
zoning.
back into town planning and zoning, like what you were saying.
Two things we don't do as a society.
That's the problem. That's what's not happened. But what I'm saying is that for the resources,
No,
that
I'm agreeing with
Nassau
you. I'm
has,
agreeing with you. Yes,
we have too
It's
much
inadequate for the
people.
population.
Yeah,
It is.
exactly. So
It
that's
is.
what I'm saying.
You are correct.
And then the next thing is we are. The ambulance, and then now we're like everything is being like a breeze blue, the breeze of this new 25 blue, and the skirt of the Bahamas lift up, and now you can see we need ambulances, we need fire trucks. You know what I mean? Like there are so many things now that we are now in a position where we are clearly seeing, the people are clearly seeing that we need the public transportation system because traffic is a mess every single day.
So-
if you don't have those police officers directing traffic in the morning on major highways and roundabouts,
Blue
we would
Antonio-
never get to work. We would never get to work.
Well, further complicating this is maintenance, right? When you talk about
And then you need
engineers,
to be strategic.
but hold on, when you talk
right?
about engineers, these architects, these sorts of professionals, right? In developed countries, a key ingredient to their success as countries is they engineer and architecturally design their cities, thoroughfares, byways, avenues, highways, residential areas, commercial areas around their people, not just where their people are today, but where their people could potentially be based on trends in the future. Capacity. That doesn't exist in the Bahamas. And the next problem is that we'd buy a generator today to generate electricity in New Providence, and then like you hear about how much we spent, we hear about how much electricity it's going to generate, but you don't necessarily hear about a plan or how much it's going to cost to keep this generator running for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Same with every building that you construct, every building that the government rents out or leases. All of these things have to have long-term strategic planning behind them, because if not, what ends up happening is you have a ton of ambulances and fire trucks in Nassau, a lot of which ain't running. But we did buy them.
This is why a national development plan is crucial.
More so than development, we need a national maintenance plan. I actually think we should have created a department within the Ministry of Works
Yes.
or something.
Yes.
Who is this Department of Mechanical Services?
And jobs.
And all their job is to do is this is the nation's mechanics who fix all of the government vehicles, whether they be electric vehicles, whether they be fire engines, what they call the cherry pickers, or everything. But the
Yeah.
problem is like
Police-
everything.
police car.
Police car. You go into police. They have a garage.
That's good,
You see
then.
all the broke up cars in the back of the
I know,
garage, and
I
it's
know.
like, but y'all just get hottest right off already. But things happen, right? Things happen all the time. This is the real world we live in. But it's like you have to have a strategic plan for these things, because we have had this conversation before under the Christie administration. Remember when the dump was burning out? We had issues with fire trucks then. I don't know if people remember that.
Yes.
Tons of issues with fire trucks. And then they immediately, I don't know, remember which administration, we bought fire trucks. But here we are in 2025, and Christie's term ended in 2017. Same conversations again. Same thing with the ambulances.
Yeah.
We're talking about this again.
But you should not have to close the airport to use a fire truck. You know what I mean?
You know why?
Put out a fire in the
Because
other
that
side
fire
of the
truck,
island.
that fire
On
truck
the other
is
side of the
maintained.
island.
That fire truck has to be maintained in order for that airport to function. So clearly there's a
But
maintenance plan in place.
Yeah, so why don't we just copy that outline? Why don't we just have they have these seminars, do a little, workshop, a little meetup, whatever, with the people who maintain those, if those are being maintained well, with the other ones. You know what I mean? Like there has to be a way where we can, and especially like soon, right? Because we're not the fires won't stop.
No.
We know that.
It's gonna get worse.
We can't, we're in this time period now. It's hot. You see the summer? The spring wasn't even that hot. The summer is going to be
Scorching.
toasty.
Scorching.
So we need to start thinking about now. What is the next course of action? Because we could be faced with something like this tomorrow. You know what I mean? So what's
No,
the plan?
we faced
what
with
do
it
we
right
have
now.
I know, but what I mean, what is in place if something happens like this again? Are we gonna close down the airport again? That's not a sustainable solution.
Well, I think we have to be specific and deliberate, especially when Bahamians complain about these things, right? When your MP hears you, or the Prime Minister, or the Office of the Prime Minister hears, because they pay very close attention to Bahamians' outrage on social
and they
media.
have to. That's a part of their job.
No, I mean, yes, fine.
No. I mean, in the sense
fine.
of
That's fine.
You want to have your ear on the.
No, I agree.
You know what I mean?
I'm just telling people they, in fact, do pay attention.
They do.
What I'm trying to say is you have to be targeted with your outrage that you express online. In that, simply saying we need to fix the issue with ambulances is not a wise way to go about it. Because what the government has factually allowed to happen is the privatization of ambulances. I don't know if you know this. There are more private ambulances currently running on the streets of Nassau than there are public.
There are private ambulances in the Family Island too. Thank God.
Okay,
Because
I'm not disputing
yeah.
that. This is the thing that I'm trying to say that we should avoid. America has privatized just about the entirety of its healthcare system. There are still public ambulances available to people. They're very rare.
Yeah.
They exist. But what ends up happening is the cost of healthcare will continue to rise as you outsource and privatize components of it, which is what the government's been doing for a very long time.
Yeah.
And we already live in a reality that if you get sick and you find yourself having to go to the hospital and you don't have insurance, it's a very good chance that you're going to die. Straight up. So what I'm advising against is I think ambulances, fire trucks, should be a public good. This should be a component of something we pay for in taxes that is available to all Bahamians on all
100%.
major islands. I am not saying that private ambulances and all these things cannot exist. All I'm saying is the instant you remove the hand of government out of this becomes entirely profit driven. And everything that the government in the past has said that if we privatize these things, the national deficit will go down because we're going to spend money on this and that, has factually not happened because our deficits are still high. Like nothing has changed in it. We've sold off several public assets and been told that once we do this, the budget can look better.
But we start with Patelco Way.
We started before Telco. We started with water and sludge.
Yeah, water and sewage. is
We
very
outsourced
high.
and privatized
Yeah.
components of these reverse osmosis plants. I even can talk about the situation in Nassau because I've been told that, so I'll just leave that alone. But we have privatized several parts of water and sewage. We've privatized several parts of Ministry of Works. Remember, we separated parks and beaches from Ministry of Works, which I thought was a catastrophic decision. But here we are.
I mean, on parks and beaches, whoa, they just catch some heat, boy.
But here's the thing, right?
every
all of
every
these
5 years is some
Yes.
money,
Always.
misappropriation
But here's the
or
thing, though.
something. It's
We
ridiculous.
privatized it. How many Bahamians in the city of Nassau can say, since we've outsourced several components of this away from the government having to hire and employ people and maintain equipment for it, right? Because remember this Baja Mix situation years and years ago in the Ingham
Yes,
administration.
yeah.
have your roads gotten better?
Have your parks and beaches gotten better?
No. None of it has improved. We dig up roads now and leave it open, the trenches in the road open for 2-3 months. And then they come and patch it up, and they patch it up poorly. So around the edges of the patches, new potholes
Every
form.
time it rains.
But and then what does it do? This just generates more and more revenue for private entities. We pay more now for the same services that used to be government owned before. And the thing that perplexes me the most about this problem, and this ties right back to this conversation of diversification of the economy and the direction that we're heading in, is the party that I expected to be the champions of
The people.
national assets, national goods, and the people of the Bahamas owning these things, the Progressive Liberal Party, has factually done the exact same amount of privatization efforts as the Free National Movement, which confuses me because it's like, is everybody's objective in this now to have government retreat from these things? So this is why I'm saying, at least this is my belief system. I don't think everything in this country should be privatized. And then when we privatize it, we sell the public assets for pennies on the dollar. I'm glad to read how much we sold the Grand Lucayan for, because we spent an exorbitant amount of money over the course of ownership, public ownership of that hotel, to keep it up and running. It's very expensive. But I'm just saying, the way that we think about this has to change, and the things and questions we ask and things we demand of our MPs or our representatives in the House of Assembly has to change. Because if not, if you're not vigilant, and we're not at all vigilant now, we will continue to outsource and pick apart government agencies and privatize them. Now, I know that people who are champions of privatization, government sucks at doing all these things. No, government doesn't suck. Leadership sucks. But when you privatize the things, you pay more for the same service. Something we're not even conscious of, and I'm going to take this call right in a second, is we've also halfway privatized education in this country. You pay twice for education when you send your child to a private school, which we also subsidize through tax dollars, if you did not know that.
I know, school fees ain't going down.
No, they're going up. But instead of addressing the issue of we don't have enough public schools, we just continue to say, well, the overload of students that we have for those who can afford it, we'll offset that by those
But
parents sending their
But
children
it
to
goes back to the creme brulee because you have
Yes.
more because of the what do you call it? The cost of living, right? That has gone up, right? It's really expensive now. Because of the cost of living that's not going down, less people will be able to afford to send their children to private schools. And so we'll still be faced 5, 10, 15, 20 years in the future with the problem of too many students going to public schools. And so the government subsidizing the private schools to kind of offload that sense in the long term if this cost of living keeps going up.
It was actually
it's like a
yes.
it's like a dog. It's like a snake eating its tail.
It was
over and
supposed
over
to
again.
actually be a temporary policy that turned into a permanent solution to our education problem. And it's actually replicating on the Family Islands now the same way it's happened in Nassau. You have private schools popping up on different Family Islands because there is insufficient schools on islands that have the population. But we'll talk about that later.
And some islands have a growing population too.
Yes.
So it's
surprisingly.
not just Nassau. It's some other islands.
But later, let's
especially
take
in
this
the
call.
north.
Good morning, call. You're on the air.
And a pleasant good morning to you, sir, and your guests, and all those in studio.
Yes, yes.
And
Any
leading
thoughts?
out the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Any thoughts, caller?
I have been around for a long time. In fact, 74 years, May the 4th, Sunday before last. I've known talk radio from it started in the inception. I always knew that a talk show host should be well-rounded, educated in all aspects, because he might be asked many questions, especially on an open line topic. When you talk about Nassau and not only, Nassau was designed very properly, because as a young student of the game, I guess you have university degrees and so forth, you start off all morning talking about Nassau, Nassau, Nassau. First of all, you don't live in Nassau, you live in the island of New Providence. Nassau is down between Nassau Street, School Lane, Duke Street, from Frederick Street, Shirley Street, up to Church Street, where St. Matthew's Eastern Wall, and out to the waterfront. That is the official city of Nassau. Many of us were never born in Nassau, don't live in Nassau. We all live in the island of New Providence. We don't go to Arawaki, we go to Western Esplanade. But we teach our children about living in Nassau, which is the first lie. A lot of our streets and names were designed and everything by foreigners, because I know, working for the Ministry of Work, the Ministry of Works was off of Bay Street, through the corner by McDonald's opposite Sheraton, British Colonial. Most of the, so what they call it, the people that come in and do streets, and surveyors came from Trinidad, Barbados, and so forth. If you notice, a lot of the streets around named Lewis Street and this and that and the next, we don't even know who Mr. Lewis is. A lot of the streets in the western area.
The caller still, I didn't touch anything.
In the Bahamas,
Okay, right.
doing surveying of the roads and everything for the then British government. They named the value of land from where they came from. They took chunks and chunks of land, like around Gladstone Road. You got Delpech Estates. That's the Delpech family that came from Brazil and from Barbados and so forth. We don't know the history of our own town. I can give you an example. Where I live is called Pride Estates. But there's Pride Estates number 1, 2, and 3. You wouldn't even know how to get to Pride Estates, because I call the police. I have a problem there. Where you live? I live Pride Estate number 1. Where is Pride Estate number 1? The police don't even know where Pride Estate number 1 is. But there's a Pride Estate number 3 that comes off of Carmichael Road. But you can't get to Pride Estate number 1 unless you come over Blue Road, you turn left onto 3000 Highway, and then they say, where you go from there? Well, do you know where Orwell Turnquest lives? Oh, yeah, under the big wall. So you come over there, and that's Blue Hill Heights. So you come over Blue Hill Heights, and then you come down in the gully, in the valley, and you meet a park. Well, that's Pride Estates number 1 park. You take a right, then you take a left, house number 8. You can't see the number 8 on the house, because it's too far back, and the number is too small. And then the police say, but we can't find you. The police don't even know.
Okay.
He's
cutting in and
but
out.
they don't even know where Pride Estate is. The fire agent, you ask the man in the fire department, come, we got a fire in Pride Estate. They go on Carmichael Road. They don't know which Pride Estate they go into. I live in the constituency of Garden Hills. There's Garden Hills number 1, there's Garden Hills number 2, but guess what? Pride Estate is in Garden Hills too. So nobody knows that Pride Estate is part of Garden Hills constituency. See, we all mix up, and we telling this to the children. So what you expect your children to know and do when daddy and mommy was lying to them from they were children?
Well, thank you very much,
lying
caller.
to the kids from the children. When you go down Saturday, we having a...
Okay, I don't know why he keeps disconnecting. I didn't touch anything. Caller, can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Rocky.
Caller, can you hear us?
Yes.
All right, great. You were cutting in and out there. But thank you for your submission. I want to say this one thing, right? So if you go, as a lot of Bahamians like to go to Miami. Miami and Fort Lauderdale are 2 different cities, correct? We think we all can agree to that. I think Fort Lauderdale is about 20-some miles north-ish of Miami. Fort Lauderdale today is largely considered in the state of Florida as being a part of the wider Miami metropolitan area. The city of Atlanta has several smaller cities within the confines of Atlanta, but you look at the Atlanta metropolitan area, all of that is considered a part now of the metropolitan area of Atlanta. Same thing in Dallas.
And also on,
Dallas, Fort Worth, Garland, Arlington.
Coming back to New Providence, right? And we know it's New Providence.
No, the whole
Like,
place is now Nassau.
I know. What I'm
Yeah.
saying is that internationally now, you book a flight to New Providence.
No,
You're not
Nassau.
going to see New Providence on that.
Nassau.
When I get emails from people in Europe and South America, they don't put New Providence on the address. When they email, they say Nassau, because now
Well-
I think like when we were younger and we used in school, our teachers stressed that you put New
It's semantics
Providence
at this
on it.
point.
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
honest.
it's semantics.
And I'm saying this because the government of the Bahamas recognizes everywhere on the island
It
of New
says
Providence
NAS.
as
you go.
a Nassau.
Yeah,
When you put your
NAS.
address for if you're getting your voter's card, guess what city you're in?
Yeah.
Nassau. Now
The-
he is
the
correct.
caller was right. Yeah,
the caller
he
is
was
correct
right.
in
He was
terms
right.
of the old-fashioned definition of the city of Nassau.
Very true.
But the lived reality of this country, and including the records, is that the Paradise Island is a part of Nassau.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just say
But
it.
I think it just goes right back into the same thing. It's like, did we really did we really plan for and did we really like brace ourselves for that shift from recognizing the island that we live on from being New Providence to being considered Nassau? You know what I mean? Like
It's
like,
irrelevant.
we didn't really because like I said, I went from in primary school, learning New Providence, and then now it's considered Nassau internationally. Everybody just say, "Oh, this is Nassau." You know what I mean?
Well, I
So-
mean that's a bit different, but you're
I know,
right.
but
No,
I
you're
mean,
right.
like,
I'm
now
just saying
it's generally considered
cities grow.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
But
And then
yeah.
we didn't. Then so I like I said, with in some islands you have like all the different settlements, and they'll say, "Oh, this is this settlement, this is that settlement." I don't think we really took out the time to name all of the settlements in Nassau and really
We
like
have named them. What do you mean?
Pay what settlements? It's just Nassau. New
No, we have
Providence.
settlements in Nassau.
Yes, I know.
Fox Hill, Adelaide,
Yeah, but
Gambia.
we don't have them pinpointed on like how we would say, St. Salvador, Coburn Town. And,
Hold on, but I'll say this: you actually, and it's something very remarkable that I've learned. If you go to on the Bahamas MLS or any real estate website, they actually have just like the caller was talking about the different cities and developments, well, towns, villages, developments in Nassau labeled in their geographical areas. There's also a feature on Google Maps that if you wanted to know where certain places were, it'll cut out the actual boundaries of that area. So if you wanted to know the boundary of Garden Hills, Google Maps will show you the boundaries of Garden Hills now.
number one or number two?
Actually, it'll show you both. I'm dead serious.
Okay,
When I something I found remarkable, and sometimes when they have listings for properties, I went to the area in Nassau or New Providence,
Understand.
and I would show you the cutout of where that area is, and you make your own judgments whether or not
I
you want to
still
buy.
can't deal with Google Maps and their Belu Hill Road. I really
Belu
can't
Hill
get-
Road, yeah,
I
it
really
is a
can't.
thing.
That is
but
hilarious.
the point that we were all making was that we have not planned for our future. And I mean,
Yeah.
we reiterate that.
Yeah.
We, as in the people of the Bahamas, black, white, yellow, green, whatever color and
Not
ethnic
green, not
backgrounds,
green.
whatever ethnic backgrounds we come from, we, especially in the city of Nassau, on the island of Providence and Paradise Island, have not planned ourselves for our future on these two islands. And I'm fearing that the same things are happening across the country because, anyway, that's a whole other conversation. I'm going to read some of these texts. You can text us in just like these folks did at 422-4796. That's 422-GR96. You can call us in at 323-6232, 325-4316, or 325-4259. This person said, you are absolutely correct about the zoning and street size. Have you ever drove an F-150 through Baintown on really narrow, and it seems as if they were just designed for horse sorries.
You have to stop and reverse.
They were
either
designed for
stop
that.
and reverse, or stop and drive on the side of the road, like in front of somebody's house, so the next car could pass on the other side of the road. And it's a two-way street, but it's only big enough for one car.
You can actually see if you go on Google Maps,
And
or
then
just
they
drive
have
to the
little
areas,
speed bump in it. Sorry,
or
it's
just
so funny.
drive to the area yourself, you can see the development of this country change away from a town, village, more European sense of town planning.
Yeah.
And you can see it shift over to American urban sprawl just by driving. You literally can drive, well, you can't go drive down Blue Hill like you could once
You could
upon a
drive
time.
down West Hill Street, and you could drive out of the.
Yeah,
if you drive
look at the
down
Michael Road.
If you drive down, I think it's Augusta Street, down West Hill Street. Like if you come up through that same area, I think that's Baintown up there. If you come over that hill and go, you're driving out of that. Like you said, like rural European type.
I'm going rural, but yeah, more
area.
urbanized, high density urban
into
area.
the high density urban area, like right at the end of that road, where once you reach Margaritaville and you see like all that traffic
Starts to spread out.
the stoplight there, which I really don't understand.
But this
and
is
you go down.
this
That's
is the-
that's it.
this is
That's
the problem, though.
It's a clash.
And I've said this before. We literally copied and
It's a
borrowed
clash of cultures.
from American urban sprawl. And remember the difference between the Bahamas and America is America got land for years and years and years and years.
Correct.
We have a very finite resource of land in this country, especially
And
in the
we're
capital.
losing it because of climate change. We have
Not
sea
just
level
that,
rise.
we have very
We're losing the coast.
poor usage of square space in Nassau for this many people. It ain't that much people when you consider the fact that you have areas of far greater density that have far more people, and they're able to comfortably live within the area because they have these things called public transportation. But that's another conversation. I don't think central government of the Bahamas is capable of doing it. I don't expect our political parties to be able to solve this
I
problem.
don't
You
wanna
need
say that
local
because-
government. You need local
Okay,
government.
local government.
You need local government.
Because from you start that conversation, they're already thinking, oh, okay, we're going to have to go and bring in somebody to go and do
They're doing that now, though.
This and that. I know, but when we do that, are we really benefiting from it?
But that's exactly
like,
what
are
I'm
we
saying.
maximizing the potential benefit?
Are not designing these things for us.
Yeah.
So that becomes the problem. Anyway, read this next text. You can text just to this person at 422-GR96. They said, good morning, Dawn and Crystal and Tate. Well, Tate isn't here at the moment, but that's fine. I really love your show, and as always, I'm learning a lot from you. I have an observation, but hope that does not offend you. While Dawn was expressing idea, he was only midway through to discuss it. I'm tongue twisting. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. Let me reread. While Dawn was expressing an idea, he was only midway through the discussion when Crystal interrupted him to speak. Could you all consider, if you have something to say, could you possibly write it down that you would like to say, which would allow the person speaking to finish the discussion, because I feel it causes one to lose their chain of thought, which can be very frustrating. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for pointing that out. I will pull out my notebook so I could jot down ideas. Thanks for that.
Morning. Also, anyone not from Grand Bahama calls the entire island Freeport. You know, I sometimes do that as well. I'm not from Grand Bahama. I do love the island of Grand Bahama, and I really like the layout of the city of Freeport. But good observation. Text to this other person says, morning to my my favorite shows, but isn't the capital of New Providence called? Yes.
Nassau is the capital of Bahamas. Did you guys hear the song? It was true.
Why did I not make that connection? That completely escaped my mind. But back to the
Brittany, when we go on commercial break, you have to play that one.
What's the name of that song again?
That's
Elkin 360 or something.
no, Elkin is the artist, and I think that's one of the only songs, right? So
I don't know.
that should be easy to find. You have that one.
can
Nassau
find
is the capital of Bahamas.
But I was gonna say that
Independence coming up, so we can hear that song a lot.
because of the lack of forward thinking, and this isn't rocket science, man. You just got to plan for more than 5 years. We find ourselves consistently tumbling through crisis to crisis. So this whole conversation and rabbit hole we went in, even with the caller calling in about the issue, is perfectly encapsulates why we're in the exact situation that we're in right now. Mm-hmm. And that is because we are reactive. And the sad reality that you're going to have to embrace as a payment until you demand for more and change the things that you require of your members of parliament is when is the term I should use, the United States and China resolve their trade dispute. And I guess the Trump administration feels satisfied that they got the things that they want. And let's say we move to a space where they massively reduce tariffs more than they already have, or completely eliminate them on each other. The plans or initiatives of the government of the Bahamas and just about every Caribbean country to diversify their trade partners away from the United States will all halt. It is very likely that we're all going to have collective amnesia about this issue. And instead of looking out for the long-term strategic entry, but because things, assuming that this happens, more likely it will, are good in that moment, then they must be good forever. And as a result, there will be no change in policy towards trade in the Bahamas. And that's the part that greatly concerns me. And this isn't the first time we've found ourselves in this situation, but we cannot operate tactically as a country. We have to operate strategically. So, Crystal, to your question about whether or not we can diversify, we can, but the way that we currently educate our people and matriculate people from the academic system in this country or abroad into the workforce isn't working. That's the part that breaks down. And as a result of that, my answer to the question is no, we cannot.
Okay, so I have another question. Okay, so sometimes I wonder, right, if we are we capable of doing some of these, finding solutions, right, to a lot of these national issues that we have. And do you think that the government, and this is for like listeners as well, listeners, you could chime in, text us, call us. Do you think that the government is aware of its own limitations, right? Knowing that a lot of people who we hire into the public service may be, not with the times. I try to be as politically correct as possible. And then, if they're and limitations isn't really the word I'm looking for, but they're aware of their own shortcomings, their own capacity to actually solve problems. And so do you think that's why there is so much like foreign contracts going out to solve national issues? Because they're like, we don't have this, we can't do this. And I understand sometimes we may not have the what do you call it? We may not have the skilled labor here. It's logical, right? That just happens, and that's not our fault at all. But do you think that it's because of like they feel, you look at a certain department, government department in this certain ministry somewhere, and you have a serious issue, and the government is like, well, we can't do this. We need to bring in somebody to do it. Or do you think it's because we just okay, so there's a notion, right, that we just can't do it. Like we just can't. We just can't because we're not.
My response to that is
we're not capable.
we are capable. Let me rephrase that. Some of us are capable.
But do you think we can get organized enough to solve a lot of these national issues without bringing in people?
Can, yes. Will, no.
How? No, I mean like how are we gonna do it? How do you do it? How do you solve a problem like, for example, public transportation? We've had a pilot bus program how many times?
Like 4 or 5
Almost
times.
every single administration coming in from 2008
Before
was
that. Before that.
Oh, okay.
From
See,
the 90s.
there we go. Here we go.
Late 80s
right?
and 90s.
And so we know all of the push and pulls with this whole thing. We know the jitney drivers and the taxi driver, whatever. You know that a lot of them, we don't print new plates, right?
They
rarely.
recent the taxis, they printed a bunch of new plates.
Okay, well that's good. But like we know that there are like certain
But it doesn't resolve the issues. This is
Bottlenecks.
so the problem is, Crystal, we bandage everything. So the Bahamas is a country where
yes, but so after you
explaining.
put all
I'm
those
explaining.
Band-Aid on top, just could you
Go ahead,
hold your
go
thought
ahead.
1 second? But after you put all those Band-Aids on top, right? And then it's time to remove the Band-Aids and actually fix the problem, right? Because it's infected. To fix the infection, to reverse the
I'm saying
infection.
yes, we do.
How do we do that now?
So there's this thing in public policy called path dependency. To explain this in layman's terms as quickly as possible. If you go right now, you give $10,000 in a bank and you need a new car, and you have two choices: you go buy one car from Japan, bring it into the Bahamas, and have some change left over, or spend the entire $10,000 bringing in the car, but you ain't owe nobody no debt. Or you go to a dealership, put $5,000 down or $10,000 down, and then pay off a loan to the bank or the dealership, whoever financing it, for the car. If you go to the dealership, buy the car, put $10,000 down, now you broke, and every time you get a paycheck or money come in, you got to service this loan for this nice shiny new car that you have.
It ain't gonna be shiny too
You
long.
are now
It's
on a
car.
path now that you've taken out this loan, where you have an obligation to meet every single month, whether it's a mortgage, it's some payment that you have to make. Every decision that you make in conjunction with this burden that you've already taken on servicing this loan has to be revolving around the fact that now that you have a loan. So if you made $1,000 a month, $300 that I got to come out for this loan that you got to pay. And every time that you take on new burdens, you make decisions that cost you money, that puts new strain on that $1,000 that you have. So it limits the decisions that you're able to make in the future. Now, 5 years from now, when you finally pay off this loan, you free up that $300 that you had. Now you can make new decisions with that $300 that you now have. The problem the Bahamas finds itself in, same thing with the United States. Every time the government of Bahamas has to borrow money or sell bonds to raise money, the government's ability to maneuver fiscally is limited. Almost of our national budget is paying debt, which means 30 cents on the dollar, just over 30 cents on the dollar that the government of the Bahamas will collect, will go towards paying off the national debt, which leaves the government with 70 cents on every dollar, basically, to do anything with, which includes paying salaries, paving roads, all the goods and services that you want. Every time you make a decision as a government, you lock yourself in a path for a set period of time, which either makes it very expensive and prohibitive for you to move away from that, or you just can't move because you're stuck in this position. So if the Bahamas decides we're not going to do renewable energies, we were just going to stick with bunkersea from now and forevermore, and you make more and more investments in those generators, you have less fiscal headroom to invest, which is why the government finds itself now, whether or not this current administration or any political party administration wants to admit, is selling off so many public assets and using word salads to do so. The government is in a terrible fiscal situation. We don't want to talk about that or admit that.
We have been in for a while, though.
It's worse
It didn't
now.
start here.
The longer this goes on,
Yeah.
the worse the situation
and
becomes.
so my question is,
We can't
now
know.
is the time to peel off all those Band-Aids, those years of Band-Aids, decades of Band-Aids. So what do we do now? What is the first step for us to get out of that?
Well, you got to raise taxes.
Oh, boy.
You got two choices. You either cut them on the spending that you're doing, which seems to never happen in the Bahamas, or you raise taxes or find new alternative revenue streams.
So when countries look at cutting taxes, because I'm pretty sure countries across the world have done it, and in similar situations as the Bahamas have done this in the past. So what are some of the things that you cut back on as a government in order to start to ease that, that pressure?
Well, one of the first things that goes is welfare programs. Anything to do, well, thankfully we have the national insurance situation, right? Even though it's a whole rant, I ain't getting into all that. But one of the first things that tends to go in countries is they cut back on the welfare system, their ability to give people childcare, healthcare, education.
no.
I just telling you what happening.
Yeah.
Austerity is the first thing that usually happens. We have a classic
can't
example.
see that.
Look at Barbados after their last IMF bailout. Look at Jamaica after their last IMF bailout. Jamaica's in a great position fiscally right now.
And they cut back on
Well, they fired like a third or more of their civil service.
oh my God.
Yes, it was catastrophic when it happened a couple years ago when Andrew Holness
Oh yeah.
had to make lots of nasty decisions, and they had to maintain a 25% budget surplus, which they still maintain to this day. They're the only country in the history of the IMF successfully able to do that. They were under worse
It came at a hefty
heavy
price.
costs,
Yeah.
heavy, so bad that that Jamaica found itself in a fiscal situation where they had to rely on Chinese investment and selling public assets to China in order to have capital investments in infrastructure in the country. So in other words, you want to build new roads, new highways, you want to upgrade a port, your government ain't got no money. The IMF does not give them the fiscal leeway to make those investments, so they got to go someplace else to do it. And that's how people come in your country and buy up all your public assets. In our situation, external body had to do that. We sold these things ourselves.
Do you think that's why we're still our head's still above water and we haven't been
The Bahamas is in a very fortunate situation. I'll say that, but I'm saying we
had to sell those assets unless we would have been in the same IMF issues that the other countries are in now.
Why did the Christie administration
I don't like
pass
girls.
legislation for stem cell research right after Nygaard was talking all them things, but he likes stem cell investments in the country for stem cells. And, governments make decisions oftentimes in this country, sometimes by special interests, where it'd be like, why is this thing such a pressing matter in this country when the Bahamian people want this? Why are we doing a referendum on this when Bahamians clearly asking for this? The truth is, we can't solve just about all of our problems internally. We have the capacity, brain power within our country and externally out of our country of Bahamians who live abroad to fix all the problems we have in the Bahamas. That doesn't mean we have the resources to do it. We have the brain power to figure out the ways to fix it. But
So how
some
do we
of
get
these,
the resources? Use
well,
the brain
you
power?
need investment. No, you need investment. But the thing what I'm trying to get at you is, we have a lot of uncomfortable and very brutal conversations and decisions that need to be made in this country. National insurance was one of them. National insurance had to go up. Period. that should have happened in the 90s, but here we
Yeah,
are,
yeah.
kicking the can down the road like we usually do with problems in this country. We have several other issues in this country, just like the national insurance issue.
But it can't be kicked anymore.
National health insurance is another issue. The government spends an
Yeah.
inordinate amount of money on private insurance. Well, private insurance that technically controls a government thingy insurance. It's actually very complicated in the web. It was explained to me how that actually works. But it's like you could just divert this money to national health insurance and just have a national health insurance program where people pay into themselves as just like national insurance.
That would be perfect.
It would be a single payer healthcare system.
Yeah.
If you want to have private insurance, you still can have it. But these are things we should have done 20 years ago
Yeah.
that we haven't done. And now
It
you
would
look
be
at the state of
easier on
healthcare.
Bahamians, you know? And then you look at the state of healthcare. Go ahead.
But no, I'm just going to say this isn't anything new. Perry Christie, in his first administration, and he had tons of consultants, one of which I was informed would have been Lady Wilson, which is Frankie Wilson's wife. Like these things are most often than not inside of the agendas, excuse me, on the manifestos of our political parties. Now, why they never get executed is a whole nother conversation. We clearly know the solutions to our problems in this country. I can't explain to you 100% of the time why these things don't happen. Sometimes it just don't make money for nobody, so it just don't happen. But this ain't rocket
I know,
science.
but at the end of the day, it's still a moment. It's still an opportunity for the government to lotion themselves, you know. You can't always have your cake and eat it too. Sometimes you just have to have the cake, you know, and you can say, hey, guess what? On our rally, we could say that we did this, you know what I mean? And this is going to be this is something that was successful. Because remember, a few shows ago, we were talking about how there have been so many different initiatives. And then half of these initiatives, just you never hear about them anymore, and you've realized that they failed, right? So successful initiatives that helped to increase the standard of living, right, for Bahamians and make it more affordable. And those are things that they could celebrate and they actually could boast about when they're having these rallies and when they are on the campaign trail, right? It doesn't always have to involve some type of kickback or I don't know what other term I could use that's more politically correct.
Well, I can be politically incorrect, and I would just say we have a lot of our people. No, I may not say that. Some of our people are just criminally minded. Period. We have people who support the political process purely because they get contracts out of it. You have people who will rally within a member of parliament or prospective candidate to be elected as a member of parliament and will stand by them through thick or thin during the campaign, do all these things to them, oftentimes for free in some cases. And when that candidate wins, they then turn to that candidate and it's just like, but I do all this for you, I need contracts. I've been told a story by, I ain't calling nobody name, by a sitting member of parliament of this happening to them. And this isn't a new story. I guess they were a little...
It's a tale as old as time.
It is. So, but you cannot have a society that continues to function in a way, not going to say continues, that you want to function in a way that benefits the common good of the common man and woman and child in our country, and you perpetuate the system of corruption. The fact of the matter is, you had police officers selling cocaine and drugs and guns, moving and transshipping them and moving them between the
Not
United
just
States.
police, but other government.
Yes, you're right.
Employed
Yes, it
people.
was a multi-agency operation. Literally, you had the head of criminal investigations of the police force taking bribes, right? Allegedly.
And it's just so ironic that
That we find ourselves in a situation.
You know, it's something. It's so like you know how they say like theater mimics or like art mimics reality and vice versa. It's so funny because it's like, you know, you find these characters in some of the greatest of characters that you find like in movies, plays, whatever. They're the contradicting ones, right? You have like a lawyer who's always breaking the law. You know, you have like a police who always doing crime. You have like, and it's just so ironic, you know, and I'm laughing because it's just so unfortunate, but it's just it's like a scene from a movie. You know, it doesn't seem real.
What I'm trying to get at, you're right. I'm trying to say here, I'm going to take this call in a second. The broader narrative is jumping up and down. I've been saying this for years on the show. For this party do this, that party do this. The political fanatics been making noise, while Bahamians' standard of living continues to decline.
Yeah.
As the cost of living continues to go up, as your wages have been stagnant for 30 years. When you look at the chart from the IMF, the IDB, when you adjust for inflation, this isn't my opinion. 30 years of stagnant wages, you have to contend with the reality that this entire time we've been dismantling the government of the Bahamas. Bits and pieces of it have been privatized every administration. Right? And I don't think it's necessarily evil, the intentions behind it.
No.
I think this is a broader part of what was considered the Washington Consensus. The governments should offload these things so that they have better fiscal headroom in order to make better decisions and investments and other things.
And the thing is, a lot of the private companies. So, like, if you look in other countries, and please don't forget your train.
No,
of
I was going
thought.
to take the call. But
Yeah. So in like larger countries, you'd be like, okay, we sell this thing. It's not necessarily sold to, and I'm talking like developed nations, right, or first world countries. They sell to people who actually live there. A lot of times when we sell, we don't sell to companies and individuals who exist in our economy. So the money doesn't even stay in the country.
We don't have the capital.
Right? Like I said,
That's what they say.
So there's, like the market of people who are eligible to buy these things. And, a lot of them, are, like, we don't have all that industry here for that to happen. So, yeah, that's a factor. But that's like something for us to also consider, that a lot of times when we're selling these things, it's not even staying here. We're like, so I'm like, who's going to really be running the show if we continue to sell, and most of these things are not, like the Bahamas, it's like an issue of sovereignty.
Yes, but also the truth is that privatization is not a magic bullet. Oftentimes in our country, it has been instances where it's been successful. I can't name them because can't think of any off the top of my head. But a good example of it being a complete failure is just look at Eleuthero. If you live on Eleuthero and you're listening to us, you know exactly what I'm talking about because your water supply sucks.
Yeah.
And the government of the Bahamas does not own the reverse osmosis plants in Eleuthero. It's private. Yet the service that you pay for, and we all pay for, we pay our bills and our tax dollars, sucks.
But you could say the same thing about what do you call it?
Well, it's the same in Nassau. We have a company,
but the electricity is
we're now facing the issue where supposedly the electricity bills will be slightly going up. Yeah. But we have privatized it. Now we'll see in years to come whether or not this is benefiting us. I don't think giving one company, and you know what, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole of sunshine and all that. But I'm just saying, the privatization.
Rabbit hole of sunshine. Wow, Don.
I know.
That's the sunshine.
Government in the sunshine,
Sun
right?
does not shine
We
in a
do.
rabbit hole.
You know
Don.
what? That's it. I figured it out. We do factually have a government in the sunshine. We do. If you think really hard about what I just said, it makes perfect sense. Anyway, we're going to take this call. I'm sorry, call. You've been holding for such a long time. Good morning, call. You're on the air.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Anything you want to add to the conversation? Any thoughts?
Yeah, but that privatization, whether it's neo-colonial privatization, right, or privatization by locals, it's still privatization, and it's all about profit.
Yep.
You see, and then y'all talk about taxes, and then paying tax from way back in the day because they knew that was important, and it was not good. It's not at the advantage of the neo-colonialists. You see what I'm saying? So, as well as, we need to be an industrial nation. We should know from the creation of Freeport. We have the infrastructure for the location, proximity to the U.S. Barco did it, Syntex did it. But what happened? Those like Barco and Syntex, they're environmentally hazard, but then the other things we could have done, you understand me, for ourselves. And we refuse to do it. You understand me? We refuse to farm, right? What we have to do is step and fetch in governments. That's what they do. You know, the plantation, what's going on in Freeport today, the one project that need 20 more. You understand? Even with 20 more, it's still not right because it's still a self-infection situation. You understand? I mean, tourism is not good for us. Tourism alone and banking, that's not good for us. We need to become industrial. Right? What any project we does in the Bahamas, where does the material come from? Where is this source of material? That's more than half of the value of the project. If it's $1 billion, that's $500 million. Nothing to source in the Bahamas. Not even the cement, not even the blocks. You understand? You know, and so therefore we in a trade, Donald Trump put a tariff on us. Come on now, and we have a trade. We trade. We buy more from them than they buy from us. We don't even trade the tourism. The tourism we don't trade it. They exporting it for us. You understand me? So we gotta stop playing this PLP and F&M politics and thing and start dealing with this government thing. It's a government. I don't care what color they are. I stop voting, you know, because they all are the same. They all are stepping and fetching. You understand me? They stepping and fetching. You see, let's look at the people that make it, the behemoths that making the money. Come on, which country doesn't nationalize the numbers? And what do the people in the numbers do? They do the thing, they build the infrastructure that the government needs to do to house their facilities. You understand what I'm saying? Even the one that burned down. Now they going into everything. They selling cars, come on, man. When are we gonna stop allowing our governments to be corrupt? Do these corrupt deals? You understand me? Do things that are not right. Stop these things, man. You know, and the PLP and F&M, they all the same. The what you call it, the DNA, all of them the same. They all doing the step and the question. You realize that the UBP did more for us than all of them people because of, you know, see who bought the industrialization of Freeport. At least that was an idea. You know, they said they gave us the infrastructure, but the only thing it didn't belong. This was new colonialists, right?
Yes,
so,
yes.
Anyway, we
Thank you very
need
much.
come on, man. You guys need to be like us. Don't be like them, you know. You understand what I'm saying? Give us our 40 acres and a mule at least.
I agree.
You know?
I agree.
Anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much, caller. I'm going to read this text that I think actually is incredibly important. You can text just say this person at 422-4796. That's 422-GR96. They said, good morning. I never knew that some of the ambulances were private. What does that mean anyway? Can you kindly do a show highlighting the services that some of us may think is public service, but is really private? Actually, you would privatize another entity of the government this last week. Anyway, I'm going to get into that another time. I never knew that private schools are funded by us. So I have to be very specific on this. Not every private school is. To my understanding.
So there are independent schools as well.
Yes. So like Lyford Key, Windsor Preparatory Academy, King's College.
And then some in the Family Islands as well. They have independent schools.
Yeah, they don't. Like I think Island School
They
in
don't.
South Eleuthera is one of them. Is independent.
No, Island School's not a real school.
Okay. I mean,
No.
No, I mean, they don't get any public funding to my understanding like private schools
Island
do.
School is they don't, so it's not like a succession school. It's a school where you come in
Oh, yeah, you're right, you're right.
you come in for a term and then you graduate after I think a year or something and then you go back. It's like an experience. It's not really
I understand.
like a,
So
yeah.
what I'm getting at
It
is
doesn't have
that
grade levels.
schools that follow the Ministry of Education
But
curriculum,
Deep Creek Middle School is an independent school. Yeah.
schools that follow the Ministry of Education's curriculum, private schools that is, do receive assistance, financial assistance from the budget. So, no, to my understanding, that's not changed. Anyway, but yes, not every private school, just most of them. Anyway, they said, could you expand on what that means, please? Finally, I also just found out that some of the meds for immunizations given by private clinics actually come from the government, but I guess we are charged for it, for them providing the service. You pay way more, actually. You pay way more than, in often cases, the meds cost, the immunizations. Yes, immunizations are funded by the government of the Bahamas. I don't know that all of them are, but you can get them from clinics. If you did not know this, birth control is also paid for by the government of the Bahamas. You go to public clinics, you can also get the service. Same thing with condoms. Most contraceptives, the government of the Bahamas finances.
Not the UTI and all those things. Eh?
No,
The
you're right.
technical stuff, but
I don't know
just
that
the
those are.
prevention stuff.
But the prevention stuff, HIV/AIDS medication is also paid for through the public purse. Actually, I fear that one day a lot of these things will be pulled back completely, and people who don't take advantage of these services will be completely unaware. But Texter, you're correct. These things are a thing. Actually, a lot of things that we go to private facilities for are available at public facilities. I wish, and I want to say this, I had the displeasure of having to go to public facilities at various times in my life. There are a lot of Bahamians who are dependent. Like, this is a meaning of life and death.
Yes.
Their ability to access public facilities, whether it be public clinics, you go to the Carmichael Road Clinic or the South Beach Clinic. I would advise everybody at some point in your life to go to, and I want you to see your people.
You have to take the day off.
Yeah, in some cases you gotta. Well, a lot of our people are dependent upon these services. So when you have people saying that we need to stop spending money on this and that, Bahamians will die.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And it's another reason I champion for public goods. I also champion for good governance. You can't have proper public goods if your government, for lack of a better term, is operating stupidly. If government wastes obscene amounts of money on, for instance, consultants, or, and again, government has also commissioned papers to be written in the past on consultations from Bahamians to make recommendations on various policy issues. And if you bother to go and read up on some of them, you'll be astonished at some of the things Bahamians had to say from the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s about policy solutions to our issues. And your question is then going to be,
Completely ignored.
why the hell are we still living in the reality that we live in if we have Bahamians who've generated the solutions to these
So
problems?
we already started making the moves, and it's like we're stuck in the process. Like, it's like a 5-step process, and we're stuck on number 2. You know what I mean? Because it's just like we've identified the issue, right? We've sought out the different solutions that we could, potential solutions, and then number 3 is to actually start taking action. And we're just like really stuck in that,
Yes. We're going to take a break at 10:30. We're supposed to take one at 10, but take it at 10:30. You jump into the weather. One thing I wanted, which I saw on social media, and I have to bring it to people's attention, is the issue of the smoldering smoke in Abaco.
Abaco?
Abaco. The folks of Spring City. I saw it on social media. I also saw it got picked up by a local news source. Just the Free National Movement has made a recommendation that if they get elected, they're going to invest.
Do an independent.
A fire department, and while I like the sound of the idea, it goes back to this issue of you could spend this money at one time, but what is the maintenance plan? Because planes ain't cheap.
Or will it be like, oh, that was an F&M project? When the PLP comes back, it's like, oh, that was an F&M project. We're not doing that. And so the whole thing goes to waste, and they end up going right back to the police station to do it, and it's just a complete waste of money, and it's not made, and then it's run down for the next 10 or 15 years, and then when the F&M gets reelected, we're going to reinstall the fire, and they have to start from scratch, and then it's more expensive.
The people of Abaco.
That happens so much times over and over again in government. It is just...
Well, some of the people of Abaco have taken to social media to say the state clearly and emphatically that they do not support a national fire service, not because they think it's a bad idea, but because the government of the Bahamas sucks.
Well,
really bad at servicing some of our family islands. And I understand the sentiment, considering the people of Abaco...
Abaconians have always been...
in the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian, and how the government of the Bahamas still to this day has not acknowledged their abundant failures, the false narratives that the government of the Bahamas peddled.
Yeah.
I will never forget the Minister of National Supporters before you hop on the helicopter that the stories of looting, all that is fake news. That ain't happening. Those are false reports and false narratives. And then I scrolled down. I never forget that moment on social media.
Forgetting
and saw,
that everybody listening to him living in the Bahamas. You know, and all our friends and family in Abaco.
So I get their sentiment 100%. They have a volunteer core of people who basically try to put out these fires. There needs to be, and I think the way to fix that, and I 100% agree with the folks in Abaco.
And shout out to those who like independently try to, you know what I mean?
Eleuthera has a
Shout out
similar
to that.
situation
Yeah,
too.
Shout out to them.
The way that you fix this is not central government coming in and telling people that this needs to be in place. You need to have local government for the people of
Yes.
these communities to
Yes.
elect the people specifically or pull from they themselves to lead these things in local government.
I don't want to be that person, but this is exactly why Abaco from the beginning. I think they saw
Yeah.
the writing on the wall. They
Yeah.
was like, we don't want to be a part of the Bahamas. They were almost gonna be like what the place called the Turks and Caicos, you know. Abaco was like,
I know
yeah,
there's an independence movement.
we could do this. Yeah, we could do this ourselves. Also in Grand Bahama, they had
Yes.
an independence movement.
I'm going to be
So-
honest with you.
So it's like you can't, you know, you see the fires, you see the Hurricane Dorian fall and all these things. You're still like, you know, they were onto something.
52 years later, this is my 1992 born
And
eyes.
Abaco is one of the only islands that always sees a surplus. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Their
yeah.
economy is doing good. The island is functioning,
But-
you know, pretty well.
52 years later, my 1992 eyes. Yeah, I think they had a point.
Yeah.
I think the Gassaw has absolutely and emphatically failed, in particular, the southern islands of the Bahamas.
Oh gosh, that's not. go there.
I discovered that my family, not just my mother's side, which is from Andros, is that my family also from Ragged Island, and Acklands. So, and probably I related to the McKinneys and all that kind of thing.
Oh,
Right? You learn your
my
family.
Yeah, my family
Listen,
from Acklands too.
Yeah, well, we all cousins. It's
Oh,
too late
goodness.
now, so
Oh my god.
can't put the genie back in the bottle. But it's just that, like, hearing the stories how my family grew up there, and then like seeing the pictures of the island like now, like even Dr. Ian Strawn's book, Blind Days, not Blind Days. What was it?
Yeah, I think it's called Blinding.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the story of Helen and Henry Moss and
Kate,
and
the,
Kate.
the plantation. Yeah.
Yeah, like apparently the plantation
Cat
building,
Island, eh?
Cat Island, yes,
Yeah.
the building
My
is
family's
still
from Cat
still
Island,
there.
too.
The building is still there.
Okay.
The ruins of the building is still in place, and all around it is just bush, because the entire island is basically underdeveloped, and it's various issues that
And
tie
Cat
into that.
Island is beautiful islands.
I haven't been
ever
yet.
seen like Cat Island is such you know, like low key, like people, the Cat Island's so low key, like you wouldn't know, right, unless you saw it.
Well,
Cat
Snoop
Island
Dogg's
is-
son knows. Anyway,
Cat Island.
No, let me tell you something. Cat
Cat
Island.
Island is so beautiful.
Foreigners are buying up Cat Island real estate like
man.
crazy.
Because they see the value in it. You know,
Well,
like
we
it's-
clearly don't. But anyway, we're going to take this quick commercial break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned to the Eye Opener, your weekly dose of something different.
Nassau is the capital, Bahamas. Bimini is the gateway, Bahamas. 1492, Columbus landed. 1973, we were free. From Nassau to Inagua, Bahamas. From Freeport to Niguana, Bahamas. Tourists love our country, Bahamas. 700 islands, Bahamas. Happy Independence, Bahamas. Happy anniversary, Bahamas. Happy Independence, Bahamas. Golden anniversary, Bahamas. Regarding Enituma, Bahamas.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, streaming on GuardianTalkRadio.com and the Guardian Radio app, Nassau, Bahamas.
You drop the road with the best for all your printing needs. There ain't no one better, no. For posters and banners, magazines and flyers, for window decals, greeting cards and newsletters. No job too big and there's no job too small. You name it, we can print it. Just give us a call. Let Print Masters bring your masterpiece to life.
Located in the Nassau Guardian Building, telephone 302-2361.
Always on the go? Missed a show? You can now listen to Guardian Radio talk shows anytime, anywhere on Spotify and YouTube by searching Guardian Radio 96.9 FM or by entering the name of your favorite show. You can also listen by logging on to GuardianTalkRadio.com and clicking on the podcast tab. Guardian Radio, continuing to provide you with fresh news and smart talk anywhere, anytime, all day.
It's here, my Solomon Smart Rewards, the ultimate loyalty rewards program. At Solomon's, Fresh Market, or Exuma Markets, start earning smart rewards every time you shop on every item you purchase. Every dollar you spend will earn you 1 Smart Rewards point, and points are redeemable in all participating locations. Getting started is quick and easy. Earn smart rewards every time you shop at Solomon's, Fresh Market, or Exuma Markets.
Winning on the court, just like investing, is about consistency and having the right partner. With RF's Advantage Plus brokerage account, you get exclusive access to high return securities, some yielding up to 7%, plus expert investment guidance. No need to chase every opportunity. We deliver priority trading, exclusive investments, and the lowest commissions, so you can focus on what matters most. Sign up for an RF Advantage Plus brokerage account today at rfgroup.com. RF Bank and Trust. Money at work.
Exuma, Bahamas. Fishing in Long Island, Bahamas. Sailing on the Melbourne, Bahamas. Investing, Bahamas. Peas and rice and fried fish, Bahamas. Pineapple from Iluka, Bahamas. Flamingo from Inagua, Bahamas.
And welcome back to the Eye Opener, your weekly dose of something that's not a uncontrolled disassembly. Whatever happened to that SpaceX deal? Is that still on the review?
No, I think.
Was it canceled indefinitely?
I don't know what's happening.
We don't know. We'll try to keep it. But anyway, Chris, you got to run through the weather report on this beautiful Saturday on the 17th of May.
Today's weather for Saturday, May 17th, 2025 is mostly cloudy skies early, then partly cloudy this afternoon with a high near 85 degrees Fahrenheit and winds southeast at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Chance of rain, 4%. And tonight, partly cloudy skies with a low near 75 degrees Fahrenheit and winds east-southeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour and a 12% chance of rain. This is your weather report for Saturday, May 17th, 2025. So basically no rain. It's been so rainy earlier this week.
No, it needed to be. It really needed to happen.
Yeah, we needed that. It was so dry, which is crazy because the mangoes were flourishing like it was raining. Like we had so much. I picked cocoa plums this week in Nassau. Wild. So I've been seeing I even start seeing the sea grapes starting to make their way, and I'm like, sea grapes already?
You just reactivated a core memory for me.
Like a lot of these plants, like these, they flourish in.
My mother, when I was a child, used to take us, me and my brothers, to Fort Charlotte by the sea grape trees.
Oh yeah.
And we climb up on the back of a truck, and we pick the sea grapes.
I love sea grapes. Are my favorite.
Oh my God. I have not been there.
Favorite.
Every time I drive past, I look at the sea grape trees, and I think to myself, I wonder if the sea grapes still.
They burn so easily now. It seems like a lot.
It's hot.
Yeah, it's really hot, and so they don't really make it. A lot of the trees I see, they have a lot of burnt. And it may be climate change and stuff. They didn't have enough time to adapt. To the hot temperatures.
Yeah.
They're so sensitive and delicate, but they taste amazing.
I love sea grapes. But back on the topic of what's left of our country, basically.
What's left?
I'm going to be positive about it. Like I said, I'm
solution. So before we left, you were talking about local government. I feel like that is the way, honestly, and I think that's the least we could do for our islands, especially the ones with it's been such a long time for us to see, because at first, let's say 30 years ago, but we may have started talking about local government. I don't know when it started, but people would have had some skepticism, right, and been like, well, you don't really need that, blah blah blah, because you have the island administrators and all that. But now I feel like we see the dire need to have local government in place on these family islands. There's so much that can be. There's so much to gain from that. There's so much for the country to gain from local government, and like planning based on the need of each island. So, like just giving each island the opportunity to identify the issues. Because some islands only have one MP and some islands share one MP, so that's not enough, because when there's a storm or something happens, you have to wait days. I used to live in San Salvador. You used to have to wait so long after a storm for for the boat to come in. And if there's the water is still choppy, you have to wait even longer. So you may run through all of your goods, and you know what I mean? So people who living on the island are gonna have to suffer the consequences. You can't have like MP in Nassau or wherever else in the Bahamas, saying that, oh, we're gonna do this for this island, and they're not really like fully understand all of the ins and outs of how the island is run. And one hurricane could wipe out the whole airport, and you don't have nobody could travel anywhere for a long time, so you need like emergency aircraft coming in to relieve
like
people.
A helicopter.
Yeah, where's
it's crazy.
Where is it? Where are they? We don't have them. So that's what I'm talking about. So maybe like all of these things to be considered, and the people in the island sit down and say, okay, this will help our islands run better. This is an issue that we have here that's unique to this island, so we need to address this. And then they can take that whole portfolio of things recommendations and things that they have too. So not just like the negative things, so for storms and stuff, but say that, oh, well, our island actually produces a lot of cocoa plums, right? Because in Salvador, hey, those cocoa plums be off the chains. And you can say, we're going to sell this, or we're going to export these cocoa plums from this island. You know what I mean? So we have like this group of people, and this could provide jobs. It could make, these family island economies more stable. It gives people more recreational things to do as well. We need to replant mangroves and whatever this island is, and so we're going to do that. And so it would help for on both sides, like the positive things, and if negative things happen all around, to have like an actual plan or a portfolio that could be presented in the House on behalf of the island that's focused on their issues, and not like little myopic issues, but like issues that can be brought forward, solved, and maintained for long periods of time. I think that's what we need. And I think that's the benefit of local government versus the system that we have now, which is shown over many years to be very ineffective. Because we don't even have the basic things. The clinic's falling apart on most of these family islands. Like I've seen the state of it. I'm just been like, this is a clinic. This like to somebody's house. You can't have a clinic in a duplex for an island of how much, 1,000 or 3,000 people.
Hold on, but I just want you.
And that's the only medical facility on the whole island.
I know. I just want to say one thing. You can have a clinic in a duplex because we're doing it.
Anyway,
so you shouldn't.
You shouldn't,
but we do it.
And suppose there's an emergency, where you're gonna put.
You can dead.
And then suppose you have a hurricane and a tree falls on two people.
You can dead.
Two people can't even fit in some of those places, right?
Crystal, you can dead.
It's just so to me, it's just so
Crystal, look at me.
I don't know.
You can dead. That's nonsense. If you can't afford the airlift out, then
And I feel like these things should be and I know there are people on islands who care deeply about these issues.
Of course, but again,
and so why are they not a part of the process? Why are
these are developmental problems in terms of developing your country that needs national solutions
national solutions. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
So
Local government execution.
It's strategic. It's like.
Well, here's a thing, and the reason why I champion local government. The reason why China, which is now considered one of and soon to be the most logistically interconnected country in terms of the ability to move goods and services and people throughout their own borders, and the ease and access of high-speed rail, etc. They were able to execute this not by having a strong central government, which they do through the Chinese Communist Party, but because they have a vast local government structure in their country.
Xi Jinping was local government.
Yes, he was. Yes.
He started off as local government. He didn't just, appear on the stage. He was local government.
You're correct.
And he was very effective. And,
Look at the situation
he was.
With Duterte, who is the former president of the Philippines, who's now in The Hague. Anyway, feel what you want to feel about him and his anti-drug war policies. Duterte was a local government who then became I think he was the mayor of, maybe it was Manila. Don't quote me on that. He was the mayor of a major city. He was once upon a time governor of a province as well. But yeah, that's how he rose up through the ranks and became a national sensation, and eventually becoming president, and then the rest is history.
Yeah.
But the point of local government is that the people who live there
serves the community.
From the people who live there versus, I'm from Nassau, and the party say I could run in this constituency. I win the little vibe in the party.
Be like, hi, y'all.
You just transplant someone to the community. Now, sometimes the people who run these parties are of these communities, but you are a part of central government in the Bahamas, which is incredibly slow and inefficient.
Yes.
And slow to react, slow to maneuver. But I'm just saying, it just makes no sense why we haven't done this already.
Be prioritized faster. You know what I mean? Not until, we got to wait until his turn. I got to wait until it's my turn to talk in the House in next whatever
How
month.
has it taken 50 years, 52 years for us to, I don't even know, I guess at various points we must have had to have enforced this law about zoning and where liquor licenses are able to be gotten. We had supposedly, I remember when we had quote unquote legalized gambling in the country with number houses, there were regulations on where these number houses could be. Sure, whatever you want to call it. Where these businesses where people participate in gambling could be placed. I've seen them right around the corner from churches, sometimes in the same plaza as a church, right next to schools. In the same plaza as a liquor store. There's one perfect example is a liquor store. That's 2 liquor stores are still there. Blue Hill South. After you pass the Golden Gates Plaza where the food store is, you have
15 liquor stores.
It's one liquor store directly in front of the next liquor store, right across the street. Traffic is horrendous because people always reversing in and out of where the 2 liquor stores is. One is, I presume, owned by the Chinese, and the next one, I don't know who been there first. I know one used to be a Chinese restaurant. I don't know if they sell food no more, but I know they sell liquor. And
that poor guy who had the house in between the liquor stores.
Yes.
And he kept putting up. I saw him put up almost there. He put up the caution tape. He put up
to get people to stop parking in his yard.
He put up all kinds of stuff, and people still knock it down.
But this is the next problem with zoning in this country, right?
So no, I mean it's a hazard to people's residences.
But the people house.
You have people parking in front of people's houses to buy liquor from the liquor store.
Yes, but not just that. Why is a liquor store on the side of someone's house?
Well, there we go.
And then on the next side of that person's house, a clinic. And then a car lot.
And then something that looks like a house, but is actually a store that sells clothes.
Within, I dare say, 700 feet on that road, you have 2 churches, you got a broke down apartment complex, a car lot, a number house.
3 clothing stores.
3 clothing stores, somebody house.
The breakfast place.
2 people house, actually. A place where they sell breakfast attached to somebody house. 2 liquor stores. And I think we now have a hardware store on the same road, and the rest is residential. So it's like, while I'm applauding this initiative by the town planning department to finally bother to enforce these things.
And we're all for Bahamian businesses and
small
businesses.
It gotta make sense, man.
Yeah. But yeah,
you shouldn't be seeing preschools in the middle of a residential area in somebody's yard, right? They ain't zoned for that. I can't go buy. I can't. If I go in a gated community, right? I can't buy a single family lot and we'll put up an apartment complex. And people came into court and they can lose. But in this country, you could just, I guess the zoning regulations must expire. And then after it expire, it's just like wherever buck-up goes in that area. Because if you look at the transformation of an area, similar to what the place name is now, basically the real downtown of Nassau, besides Carmichael Road. What do you call it, man? Palmdale.
Oh, Palmdale.
Palmdale used to be residential. Now Palmdale is predominantly commercial.
Yeah, it's businesses.
There are still houses scattered in the corners of it, but it's predominantly commercial. And the same thing is rapidly happening in several areas of Nassau. And it's like, hey, what are zoning requirements for? If, like, is it look ghetto, for lack of a better term? It look like there's no sense of planning or effort or care. It's just whatever you want to put there, just throw something up. And then that's another conversation about the building regulations in this place. But this is why I go back to this issue of deliberate decision making. Every decision we make as to where your house can be, how much feet you got to be from your neighbor house. We have all these regulations, we have no shortages of regulations and laws. We just don't damn enforce them. And that lack of enforcement causes everything else in your society to break down. If the basic building blocks can't stand, ain't nothing else can stand. Something as simple as telling people don't run red lights, right? Remember when they put all them boxes in the middle of those four-way intersections? And they say if you go in the box, you get a ticket?
Where are the boxes?
They don't paint the roads.
Dissolve.
We use repave road, never paint them.
The boxes dissolve, John.
Most of the paint on the roads in Nassau is faded. And the places where it's been faded out for years, it's just blank road. And you just gotta just come and guess. And I've wondered for a very long time if I could catch a ticket for overtaking on a road that ain't supposed to allow overtaking, the straight lines versus the dotted lines. And if I go to court and argue the fact that, Your Honor, I understand that it's the regulations of the country, but signs up, and the next part is, markings on the road. So I understand that this may be the law.
No, and it's so important that that's there because there are some roads that like kind of trippy. If you don't go on it often, there are some roads that on the left hand they have like one lane for people who come in down on the opposite side of the road, but there are two lanes on the next side, and so one is to turn and one is to go straight. And sometimes on those two lanes, the center one is to go straight or to turn left, and sometimes it's only to turn right or so sometimes it's only to go one way and sometimes it's to go straight or turn, and then the other side, but you don't know because it changes depending on what road you on. So there's no like centralized understand like way, like centralized, what do you call it, policy or centralized standard of when you're on every single road. The center, if there's a center lane and it's only 3 lanes on that road, the center one is to go straight and to turn. But then the one all the way at the end is to turn and go straight. And it just
you also need to have the markings on the road.
It's so, and the signage too is just.
And then the next thing is like always why should I take the traffic laws of the Bahamas seriously when the few times, and I'll be honest, I think broken traffic laws by mistake in some instances, but shoot, I didn't realize that there was a sign there or that the light had turned too quickly. And then when I look behind me, the police officer in his own personal private vehicle run the light with me. And, it happened actually this week.
Or
and I was
a
like,
police vehicle.
Yeah. Well, listen, I saw it again recently.
They don't have sirens on.
This week, it was traffic.
They do the same thing.
The police cut through traffic because it was gridlock around the University of the Bahamas, and the police cut through traffic to go somewhere. And I went to an establishment of libations, and the same police car that cut through traffic with their sirens on was parked.
No, you don't finish like that.
At the place of libations. Listen,
anyway, they're cars.
I ain't hating. I just saying, when you ain't got the basic standards, nothing is add up and make sense. I know. We can take a call.
1 minute. 1 minute for the call.
Good morning, call. You're on the air.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. Right, I listen to Guardian News all the time, right? And BAM is always calling and complaining about this. We don't have enough fire engines. We don't have enough ambulance. But what we have to understand, and I think even the governments, that we are a small country. We cannot afford to do everything in a 5-year term, okay? So I believe what needs to happen is that the opposition need to get together and make a master list of what needs to be done.
A national development plan.
Yep.
Yes.
We have one.
And
Vision
where
2040.
both sides agree on issues.
I agree.
And you make this master list, and then you start ticking off. And it's a list that go from government to government because everybody have agreed that these are the issues. This is where the challenges are. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, we agree.
Very true.
Because everything, you can't get everything done within
You can't.
5 years.
Never. Yeah.
You're correct.
Never.
You're correct.
Even to a certain extent, we are a country need to be re-educated.
Yep.
Where we start from kindergarten, primary school.
Pre-K, yeah.
You know, and so that's just my opinion today.
I
that
appreciate
makes
your
sense. That
opinion,
makes
caller.
perfect sense.
We agree. We stand in unison on that.
Yes, okay.
Thank you so much.
That's what the Chinese do, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. Remember what they say now.
That's what I thought about when she was saying that, you know. I was like, yeah, because, and that's why, you know, like everybody has different, you know, ways that they govern and all that, you know. But one thing that they're consistent, one thing that has worked for them is that they have a central, and whoever is elected to be the president, they are, you know, they have to follow that plan.
Chinese proverb,
Yeah.
if you want to plan for a year, plant rice. You want to plan for 20 years, plant trees. You want to plan for 100 years, educate children. Truth is, education is the key to the destiny of your country. If your people come out mangled from a quite backwards and regressive education system, you cannot expect your country to move forward. We're going to take this last call. Good morning, call. You're on the air.
Hey, I'd like to make a comment on the business license you're talking about where there's stuff in there, the churches and the schools and all that. I wonder if our MPs notice the amount of little things that are forming on the side of the road where the people who have to pay the tax and the VAT selling the same thing and have to compete with them. I wonder how they expect us to make it or stay in business. Some shops, they got the things right to the road. You can buy any kind of shoes, any kind of clothes, any kind of beauty products. And I'm wondering...
How do you get a license?
Yeah, I mean, if this is them for to turn this into a little Haiti or a little Jamaica or something like
Especially
that.
on Carmichael.
To where you just set them shop anywhere. And the people who have to pay the majority of the taxes sell their products. And it don't seem like this bother them or they recognize it. It has to impact the small man who is paying the majority of the money. And we got staff to pay. They don't have no staff. They put their stuff outside and wait for somebody to call them outside and say how much it costs.
And it causes traffic too.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And they selling grocery on the side of the road.
I've seen it.
Sometimes I understand the port.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Call you disconnected.
Yeah, hello.
Oh, sorry, you broke up for a second.
Yeah, I understand why the port has such strict rules to place in Freeport. Because anything goes, and nobody seems to want to do anything about it. And as a result, you're turning our, what you call it, high population areas into a dump.
Yeah.
Because you have these people on the road, the things right in your face, and they busy selling their things, and our people, our government people or whatever, they don't care. I don't know what they're telling them, but they can ride around and see. And they do nothing. Laws have to be passed to keep order. Like you say, town planning.
Yep. Thank you, caller.
Town planning when it comes to these things.
One thing, thank you, caller, for your addition. I want to add one thing. The billboards that are around the city of Nassau that you're seeing to pop up on people's yard and people private property and businesses private property on sometimes public property. It's like I know that they started this process of cleaning this up on Montague, but it's like it should have never gotten to this point where on the side of most major roads people just erect structures to advertise.
I mean, but the and I wouldn't say it's not advertising, but the government does it too.
I'm knocking the fact that they could do it, but it's like there got to be some sense into this, right? Because sometimes people will put their billboard in front of somebody else's billboard.
That's very true.
And it just has happened over and over and over. And then election time, it's like everybody's turned stupid. And
oh, goodness.
No, I'm being honest. It's like it looked ghetto. Let's put some policy to this. I'm sure there is a policy that exists.
It's an eyesore for sure.
Please. Oh, Lord, please. Oh, Lord Jesus, please. Let's enforce some of the already existing laws on these issues to fix them. If we can do this thing with the liquor store, let's do this across the board. Please. Anyway, we're out of time. I want to read this last text. It says, blessings Again, beloved eye openers, you are pressed for time. Can you please bring up my previous text again next week? By the way, Dwight needs to give the eye opener 3 hours, just like the morning show called Morning Blend, to start all the other shows from 12. I just want to be on record because the next set of folks for the next show is in studio. This is what a texter's saying. Anyway, say we love you, Dwight Straw, and you are great. Yes, Lord Master Dwight, you should make things possible. I know Dwight listens from time to time. But it's going to be great. I'm going to take a picture of your texter so we can definitely get to this. But I'll read it anyway. Blessings, Crystal and Dawn. Please read my entire text. Crystal, you partly grew up in San Salvador with all that beauty and waterways. Yet you say Cat Island is oh so stunning. Also, Dawn, we need Abaco
Cat
folks.
Island and San Salvador. That's why. Because Cat Island, I have not been to San Salvador. Cat Island is beautiful. It reminds me of home. Okay.
Okay. Folks need to teach others. Abaco people need to teach others how to defend against fires. Please let these islands, I guess, run themselves independently. Lastly, Dawn and Crystal, please do a series of shows on the legal blah, blah of obtaining land rights, ownership of land that supposedly nobody want. Oh, God. Generational land problem. Yeah. I need to understand this. I descend from Exuma, Abaco, Lutheran, Cat Island. We need to understand we're all... The selling of our land and the family honors is legally possible.
We should do a series.
I'm going to take a picture of this. Any final words, Crystal?
No, just everyone stay safe. Stay hydrated because it's getting real toasty out there. And, yeah, wear your shades so, you don't get eye problems. And drink water. Lots of water, and use a reusable water bottle. Be sustainable.
All right. With that's the end of the show. So many hands build a home, many hearts build a school, but it takes many engaged Bahamians like me and you to prevent a rapid, uncontrolled disassembly. Be good, Bahamas.
Happy Independence, Bahamas. Golden Anniversary, Bahamas. Nassau is the capital, Bahamas. Give me instigate, baby. 1492, Columbus landed. 1973, we were free. Jungle to on Bay Street, Bahamas. They go to church on Sunday, Bahamas.
96.9 FM. Streaming on GuardianTalkRadio.com and the Guardian Radio app. Nassau, Bahamas.
AP News for Friday, May 16th. I'm Ben Thomas. The first direct Russia-Ukraine peace talks since the early weeks of Moscow's invasion ended after less than 2 hours.